we're almost there. We've gone through aperture, sort of opening up our lens, closing it down, letting a certain amount of light into our camera, and that's sort of affecting the amount of things that are in focus. We've also dealt with shutter speed. The amount or length of time that we've let that exposure happen for. The third variable that we need to talk about now is ISO. And ISO is the sensitivity rating of our chip. Back in the day when I was learning photography, you would go to the store and you'd buy an ISO. You would buy your film in a certain rating. You get a 100 or maybe a 160 or a 400 rated film. And you would buy that film and you would set your camera to that ISO rating. With digital cameras, we now have the ability to set the ISO from picture to picture to picture. And everybody sort of always is like, well, what ISO should I set my camera to? And you're gonna hear out in the world, I'm looking at you, dude, internet, where people are gonna say, low ISO good, high ISO bad. And again, I don't believe in those things. I don't believe in this sort of absolute thing. I think you pick the appropriate setting for what you have in your head or in your heart, right? Like, so maybe you're gonna do a portrait of your brother's newborn kid. You're maybe gonna go with a low ISO because you don't want this baby to be full of noise and artifacts. But maybe you're photographing your brother, who's now a dad's, like heavy metal rock band, and you want to have them look grainy and edgy because they're not anymore, right? He's got a kid, he's got a car payment, he's got a home loan. I mean, he's got a 401k for crying out loud. So you want to make them look edgy. So you go with a high ISO because you want to have those noises and artifacts. All that being said, is I really believe that if you can't see the thing at the sort of output, right? Like if you can't see the noise or interference, you know, go to what seems appropriate to make the correct exposure for you. I will also say this, make the perfectly exposed image at a high ISO instead of making an underexposed image at a low ISO, okay? So let's go to the computer and let's see what these things look like. So we're gonna start out at f8 at a 1/10 of a second, and our ISO is gonna be low. It's gonna be 100 ISO. So if we look here, you can't really sort of see much of a difference really between ISO 100 and 200. By the way, the light must have shifted. I'm in my daylight studio, so let's go to here and let's sort of zoom in and see what's what. So there's 100, there's 200, there's 400, there's 800, and at 800 I can start to maybe see, I'm gonna zoom in a little bit in that, but good luck. I can't really see much of it. There's 1600, 3200, 6400, and 12,800. And that's where I really start to see the difference. So I'm actually gonna go back to 100 versus 1200, 12,800, excuse me. And let's do a Y of Y comparison. And you can see that at that extremely high ISO, there's a ton of noise. And that might not be desirable for what you want in your image, right? You might want a low ISO. You just gotta know that you're gonna need more light or a longer shutter speed or a more wide open aperture, okay? So So I think what we want to do is we want to sort of experiment with a different range of ISOs. So once we get our f-stop and our shutter speed sort of understood, let's go into the ISO ratings and sort of see what ISO is going to sort of work appropriately for us. Now, a general rule of thumb, the more light you have available to you, the lower your ISO. The less light you have available to you, the higher your ISO. But again, we're still in the business of making perfect exposures. And so maybe you want to sort of stay away from the top end of your high range ISOs, but I mean, even at 3200 on this Canon full frame 6D, you're doing pretty good. So let's go get to work. Let's try it out ourselves. Get to work, try it out, get to work, try it out, get to work, try it out. Try it out, get to work. All right,